Okay, adverb clauses. Thank y'all for bearing with me. Okay, so adverb clauses. Yesterday when we talked about adjective clauses, we talked about how they describe the noun or pronoun right before them, and they start with either relative pronouns, there were 5 of those, who, whom, whose, which, and that, or they start with relative adverbs, okay? The 3 of those. Adverb clauses start with what we call subordinating conjunctions. Okay, let me explain to you why they're called that, and then we'll talk about what they look like. Yep. Okay. The word subordinate, this comes from the word subordinate, which would have an E on it, okay, without the ing. A subordinate of someone, and we spoke about this a little bit when we were in the conjunctions chapter, actually, we did talk about it. A subordinate of someone is someone who is less in rank or under someone on the ladder of command, if you will, in a structure, whatever structure that is. Think Mr. Patton's at the top, Mrs. Matherly's here, and then really anybody else who works at the school is all down here, pretty much at the same level. I mean, it might be able to be argued that if you're part-time, you're not quite as, at the same level as a full-time person, or if you're a teacher's aide down at the elementary, we have a couple, you're not quite at the same level as a teacher. But for the most part, you've got Mr. Patton, you've got Mrs. Matherly, you've got everybody else, okay, including office staff, okay? So everybody is under Mr. Patton. We are all subordinates of Mr. Patton, including Mrs. Matherly, right? Then everybody up here is a subordinate of not just Mr. Patton, but also Mrs. Matherly, okay, because she's the high school director. He's the administrator of the whole school, but thankfully she carries a lot of weight for him up here and does a lot of stuff for him that it was very difficult, and she was already doing it before she took on this title. But I remember a day when we had a different administrator named Mr. Brooks. He was here forever. Mm-hmm. Wonderful man. And he was there was a man named Mr. Janey who kind of was an assistant administrator, but he didn't do nearly what Mrs. Matherly's expected to do. Basically, Mr. Brooks, for a while, at least it seemed to me, did a lot. Okay, and when you got 2 campuses, it makes it even harder. I mean, if you're all in one building or side-by-side buildings. But anyway, subordinate. So you get the idea. We are subordinate. So subordinating conjunctions are used to make dependent clauses dependent. And I don't know how else to say that, okay? They make clauses dependent. They make them under, less important, dependent upon independent clauses. So they make dependent clauses dependent, for lack of a better way of saying that. They make dependent clauses subordinate, okay? These words are interchangeable with grammar, dependent and subordinate, okay? These are the words that do that. These words, unlike with the adjective clause, somebody was really quick on picking that up yesterday, that if was it you, Kate? The object of the preposition is a relative pronoun, then your clause doesn't start with your preposition, it starts with it doesn't start with the relative pronoun, it starts with preposition. Guys, I'm sleep deprived, I apologize. Adverb clauses should always start with a subordinating conjunction. Now, there are a lot of subordinating conjunctions, okay? If you look on page 203, you will see that. After all, though, and I'm not going to read those to you, you're very capable of reading yourselves, okay? There are 21 they list there, okay, subordinating conjunctions. This is not an all-inclusive list. There are more that exist, but these are the most commonly used ones, okay? Yes, where and when are also relative adverbs, if you remember that from yesterday. So those 2 words can start both adjective clauses and adverb clauses, okay? Look at these sentences that have adverb clauses, And one more thing I want to write up here. For our purposes and for purposes in general, for the most part, almost always, adverb clauses modify, describe the verb in the independent clause. So just like it was easy with the adjective clause, it's almost as easy with these. With the adjective clause, it goes to the noun or pronoun right before it. These, as long as you can locate the verb correctly in the other part of the sentence, you know what it describes. Okay? How does it describe? Look on page 203 with me. Subordinating conjunctions make dependent clauses, adverbial dependent clauses, subordinate or dependent. These adverb clauses show different characteristics that one-word adverbs can do. When, where, how. Okay? Remember I've said last year and this year when we were talking about adverbs, how, when, where, how often, to what extent, and why. And people are like, but Ms. Shoemake, they come in 8th grade and they're like, why? That's not on our list from when we've been here for our whole lives. Because one-word adverbs don't answer why, right? But prepositional phrases can, and certainly we're going to see a couple of dependent clauses here that do. Time. They will study when, before they go to the game. That's your dependent adverbial clause telling when they will study. Will study is what it describes. Place. They prefer to study where there are few disturbances. Well, this is a verbal. They're not going to do this to you. It's funny that they give you an example of something that they never give you an example of that you have to fill out. This, where there are few disturbances, does answer the question where, but it doesn't describe prefer. It describes study, which is not a verb, it's a verbal, right? To study is an infinitive, okay? But you won't have to do that in your examples. Condition. We will go out into the lake. How? Or maybe even why. If everyone in the boat, not why, probably how. If everyone in the boat is wearing a life jacket, that's under what condition we will. And then cause. This is why. Because the meeting begins at 7 o'clock, I should leave here at 6:30. Okay? That dependent clause answers why you should leave at 6:30. Okay? We need to do 8:10, 8:11, and 8:12. Okay? I'm going to do, we're going to do 8:10 all together, and then I'll get you started on 8:11 and 8:12. Remember what I told you about what adverb clauses describe. Raise your hand when you want to tell me what the word on the blank is going to be. You're writing the word on the blank that the adverb clause describes in each sentence. When I want to relax, I read a good book. Read. It tells when you read, when I want to relax. Number 2, I go where I can read without interruption. Kaylee. Go. Number 3, I find a place without people so that I can concentrate on my book. Isaac? Find. Why do I find the place? So that. Whenever I am by myself, I focus much better. Focus. When do you focus better? Whenever I'm by myself. 5, I also read when I have homework assignments on or research projects. Excuse me. Good. Raise your hand, but yes, absolutely. Okay, you're good. You're good. Number 6, I read so that I can learn. Go ahead. Read. Good. Somebody who hasn't given me one on the next few, please. I usually go to the library as soon as I finish a book. Hold on. Somebody, yeah, one of you two for sure. Did you give me one yet, Kaylee?
Yeah.
You did. You haven't. Okay, go ahead.
Go.
Go. When do I go? As soon as I finish a book. Okay. Preferably nothing interrupts my reading when I get involved in an exciting book. Jersey or Sam? What did I say? It describes part that's not italicized, it's going to describe the verb in that part. So what is the verb in number 8 that is not italicized? This is not a trick question. What's your verb in number 8? Jersey? I'm going to read it to you and you're going to tell me what the verb is. Preferably, nothing interrupts my reading. What's your verb? Interrupts. See, you got it. Okay, you got it. Number 9, sometimes I read late into the night until I know the outcome of the story. When do I read, or under what condition do I read? I just told you the answer to that one, didn't I? Read on the blank. Sam, you got number 10. I get excited. There are only 3 words there. When I get to the end of a good book. Which one's your verb? Only one of those words is your verb. All right, look at 8:11. On these, they don't italicize the dependent clauses, the adverbial clauses, okay? There's one in each sentence. These are all complex sentences. I don't think there are any compound complex, okay? You are going to find the adverb clause that can't stand alone. If it's at the beginning, it's easy, y'all. And I see 1, 2, 3, 6 out of 10 of them are at the beginning, okay? Mark your dependent clause, parentheses or brackets. Again, Ms. Shoemate, for herself, does brackets for clauses. Because parentheses I think of as prepositional phrases. But either way, parentheses or brackets for the dependent adverbial clause. Underline the subordinating conjunction, which if you mark the clause right, it will always be the first word or the first couple of words in the dependent clause. Look back, so I did want to point that out to you. Look back on page 203. Please note that a few of these subordinating conjunctions are more than one word. At the top of the middle column in the green box, we have in order that. In the first column, you have as soon as and as though. All right? And there are a few others, I'm sure, but I don't think they'll give them to you. So make sure if you have a 2-word subordinating conjunction that you mark both words. I see a couple like that. All right? Let's do the first one together. This is really easy to accomplish. When summer comes, I am going spelunking. Micah?
When summer comes.
When? And you're going to do the other 9. Now, this is the only hard thing we have to do today, okay? 8:12, or hardish. I won't say, yeah. It's not infinitive hard and gerund hard if you ask me, but it's still a little difficult for some. Place parentheses around the dependent clauses. You will only have one dependent clause in each sentence, okay? And then you don't have to underline the starting word. They want you to put parentheses or brackets around the dependent clause, the one, and then you have to determine is it adjective or adverb. Now remember. If it is an adjective clause, it has to come directly after what? The noun or pronoun it describes. So look at it, okay? If it's not just right after a noun or pronoun, it can't describe that noun. It can't be adjective. It has to be adverb.
So
okay?
adjectives can't be at the beginning of a sentence.
I don't know. They won't. They just won't. Okay? 8:12. Let's do 1 and 2 together. Raise your hand if you want to do it. Genealogy is a study that traces family origins. Caitlin?
That traces family origin.
Yep.
And then
Adjective, because it describes study, which is the noun that's right before it. So that traces family origins, adjective. And number 2, and you got this. If you know that it's at the beginning, you've got it. Since genealogy traces family origins, many genealogists are identifying their ancestors. Okay.
Although cave exploration is no.
Number 2.
Since genealogy traces family origins.
Good.
And then adverb.
Okay, good. From since till the comma there after origins, and it is adverb. It tells why many genealogists are identifying your verb there. Okay, so you do 3 through 10 on this one, and 2 through 10 on 811. Bye, Dylan. And maybe Emma, if she looks for a video.